Hey guys, Skidd here, and welcome to CritterCove, a cozy life and resort sim developed by Gentleman Rat and inspired by games like Animal Crossing, where you can befriend lots of different critters and even have them move in on the island with you. There's exploring, swimming, and crafting galore too. I managed to get an invite to the early playtest of this game, and even though there's still a lot left to develop, I decided to see what the game was all about. So if this sounds like your kind of thing, stick around, and I hope you enjoy my adventure in Critter Cove. I first started out by customizing my character with the quite large selection of pieces, and I of course named him Skidd. I immediately appear on a dock with a walking talking shark guy named Anchor who tells me we were attacked by a robot kraken? Ghost pirates? Whirlpool? Did I sleep through all that? Anyway, no time to ponder about that, because Anchor tells me I need to speak to a guy named Renard in town and wanders off, leaving me by my lonesome on the dock. I check out the different options like relationships, journal entries, inventory, crafting menu, all that good stuff. I head up into town, and of course the first thing I do is rummage through some garbage. I'm sure that's not going to become a habit or anything. Anyway, sure enough, I come across Renard, and he tells me the island is in a less than ideal state and wants to restore it to become a cozy resort town. But first, I need to choose a place to call home and talk to a couple of the villagers that are already staying here. So I decide this little home in the central part looks nice and set it as my forever home. I then kind of wander around the town to get myself acquainted with the locations before I ended up on the beach and met Sammy, who seems very pleased that someone else is here on the island with him. I say my goodbyes and find an old rusted looking robot guy that I can't seem to do anything with, so I leave him there and decide to explore the waters a little bit. I came across a cave, and it doesn't seem like I can do much there at the moment, so again, I head off back to where I claimed home, donated the needed items into the box, and watched as my house sprouts like a plant. If only it were that easy. I decide to look inside, and I mess with the decoration feature a little bit before heading back out and scrounging the beach for more forageables. I come across Pokey, another critter on the opposite end of the island, who is much less pleased to see me. But that's okay, I'm sure being stuck on an island with just a tent for a house would frustrate me too. Anyway, I head back up and talk to Renard again, and he tells me that I should go talk to Copperbottom, that old roasted robot that I found before. But this time he gives me some oil so I can unrust him. Copperbottom thanks me and tells me to restore the resort, I'm gonna need a fully active workshop, and he can help. So he gives me my first blueprint for a basic axe. Copperbottom sees through my plan and tells me not to kill any other resort goers or they'll void their warranty. You'll be the first to go, Copperbottom. Anyway, I clear some of the debris around the workshop, donated the required items, and watched as Copperbottom begins repairing the shop. Pokey shows up and tells me that she found a bottle on the beach and wants me to grab it since I'm always the one foraging around for junk. Rude. You'll be next, Pokey. Anyway, she leads me to the bottle, and inside I find a treasure map. Cool. However, I need a shovel, and apparently only Anchor knows how to get a hold of those, so I'll need to talk to him. However, it was getting late, and for the first time in the whole game, the music changed to a nice calming version for nighttime. Don't get me wrong, the music is really nice so far. I just think having a bigger selection, maybe a song for every couple of hours would be kind of cool. Kind of like how Animal Crossing does it. Anyway, after a long first day, I headed to bed. I wake up and immediately meet up with Anchor outside, and he gives me a blueprint for a shovel. The perfect tool to hide Copperbottom and poke it. Anyway, I follow the treasure map over to where the X is, and I dig up a recipe for a cooking station. I head back and I run into Pokey, who tries to sell me a furnace for 125 doubloons. I don't know who you think you are, Pokey, but you are very quickly moving to the top of my list. I also run into Sammy, who reveals that he's afraid of sharks. Let's hope he doesn't run into Anchor. I then talk to Copperbottom, who has now completed the workshop. He tells me I need to make a simple forge, so I'll have to go foraging for materials in order to do so. I do have the proper things to make a cooking station though, so I do just that, and give cooking a go. No one must know how terrible I am at it. I then take to exploring for a while to forage for lots of materials. I went swimming near where I found Copper Bottom because I remember there being a lot of goodies down there, and look at that! I found a furnace right there for free! I knew Pokey was trying to scam me. I found out that as you dismantle things, you eventually learn how to craft them, so that's good to know. I got what I needed and I headed back to the workshop where I crafted the simple forge. Now with that, I can make metal bars and slabs used for more crafting. Then, Copperbottom told me that I needed to make a fabricator, but he doesn't have the blueprint for it, so I should search that one cave that I found before to see if I can find it in there. So I do just that. I head to the cave and find not only a vending machine, but I spotted some wall paintings above, which, after looking at for a couple of moments, I learned how to make the fabricator. And then I spent a lot of time exploring around and trying to Skyrim my horse up the wall, but that was a complete waste of time. I ran into Sammy, who was also trying to offer me a furnace for 125 doubloons. Come on, Sammy, so far you're the one exception, don't make me put you on the list too. I ran across some rooftops, Anchor told me about the bulletin board in the center of town, I found the lighthouse, and then I watched the sunset as the relaxing music came back on. I then headed back home and I went to sleep. Today, I started looking for some oil, which was needed to make the fabricator, so I hopped into the water and dismantled a broken motor, which I found, and got some. I was on my way back to the workshop when suddenly... Wow. Weather really gives you absolutely no warning on this island. Anyway, I made the fabricator, and the next item on the list was to... build a cutter. But to make that, I'll need a treadmill, which apparently there is one located under the main dock in some shipping containers. So back down into the water I go, where I find the treadmill and then run back to the workshop. I build the cutter, and the last item on the list is a stone kiln, which thankfully I already had all the items for. So I built and placed that, now completing everything I need in the workshop to start rebuilding the town. Just outside, Renard waves me down to tell me that he's called up a rep from the Caring Community Commission to come and inspect the town. Geez, Renard, I only just finished the dang workshop. Can you give me some time first before... Renard added to list. Anyways, immediately after done talking with Renard, I see Inspector Checkmark walking up on the dock. Man, that was fast. And he tells me the town is lacking enough people and shops for it to be graded. I mean... I could have told you that. Anyway, I headed back to Copperbottom, who says he'll survey some locations where I can build a clothing shop and a cafe. He heads off to do that, and I run into Anchor, who says he can build me a seaworthy vessel if I bring him the right supplies. So off into town I go looking for... Sammy, what are you doing? Sammy mentions he has head music. I decide this hurts my head too much, and I lay down for a nap. 2 hours later, I wake up and Sammy gets my attention to let me know that he's absolutely starving. So I decide to give him one of my dragon fruits, and in return, he hands me a palm tree cabana shirt. I put it on and actually quite like it. After that, I went back and fabricated some supplies needed to complete the shops, dismantled a few things in town for the blueprints, and headed back inside to call it a night. The next morning, I did a lot of the same, where I wandered around town dismantling and cleaning up a lot of the trash. I came across a bathtub on the beach and another painting which taught me how to make a furniture work table. I met up with Sammy again, and he told me that he wants to help the town with its lighting problem. Apparently it's too dark at night, and if I can learn the blueprint for the street lamps, I can light up the streets to make it more cozy. I do scrounge around town a bit more and do eventually learn the lamp blueprint. A lot of the rest of the day is much of the same, where I go around cleaning up garbage, dismantling things for scrap and materials. At one point I tried swimming to some goodies I saw on my map, but apparently the ocean current was keeping me from swimming out too far. So with my head hung in defeat, I headed back into town where I met up with Copperbottom, and he had the cafe ready for me to donate items to. I learned how to make a basic trunk, which might come in handy if I need more storage space, and then I decided I was in the mood for some platforming. So I jumped and climbed my way all the way to the top of the mountain, where I found a rubber ducky on a rock. Look how cute he is. Aww. I took in the sweet view from high up and decided to test if there was fall damage. There was not. I foraged a bit more and donated what items I could to the shops, cleaned up a bit more around town, made some lamps, placed them around the central part of town, and look how much more cozy it is now. I placed a bench and my rubber ducky on my porch and then called it a night. Today started mostly the same, but I came across a coat hanger with a lamp on it. Weird. I spent a lot of the morning faffing around town doing nothing. I'm not sure what I was doing here. Don't judge me. Until I realized I had a grass cutter engine that I had found at some point. Believe me, I have the footage and I can't for the life of me find out where I got this. But it doesn't matter because this, the coat hanger, and the bathtub I found earlier are the items I needed in order for Anchor to make me a boat. So I went and talked to him, and he told me that while he builds it, I should talk to Renard about something. So I go and see Renard. He mentions that there are other critters out in the islands that I should recruit to our town, and he of course is tasking me to be the one to do it. You know, you're still on the top of my list, Renard. I hope you know that. Back down to the dock where the Anchor is finished by a fine-looking craft. Well, a craft anyway. He tells me I should name my boat, and I decide to go with the USS Dr. Pepper. I hop on and another new music track plays. This is quite nice, actually. I head over to the neighboring island and find a really cool underwater abandoned building, but I run out of air too fast to really be able to explore it, so I leave it for now. And I head back onto the island where I eventually meet Eddie, a shipwrecked castaway who lost his valuables. He asks me politely if I could search for them, which I agree to do. And after searching around the island and finding a pirate sign, which I need to finish the cafe, I head down into the deep waters and find Eddie's sailor chest, no problem. I return it to him and he's thankful and he gives me some rosy sunglasses as a reward. But now, unsure what to do with himself, he asks me what I think. I tell him to move to CritterCove and he's elated and agrees, and says he'll wait by my boat. I decide to try my luck exploring the underwater building again and almost drown. But you know the best way to overcome drowning? Eating food. I do find a few supplies, but it's getting late, so I hop on the boat with Eddie and head back over to CritterCove, where he then tells me he's going to need a tent as a temporary place to stay, since there's no houses readily available. So I go to my workshop, make a tent, and grab all the supplies I need for the cafe. I head over, donate all the items to the bin, and watch as Copper Bottom starts working. I head back over to the dock and give Eddie his tent, and he gives me a Sea Dog's table. And then I'd go talk to Renard, who rewards me with a cool dream top for finding Eddie. I mean, it's cool, but I don't know, I kind of grown to love this palm tree shirt at this point. Anyway, after that long day, I decide to check into my pad and go to sleep. Today, I headed straight over to Copper Bottom, and he tells me now that the cafe is complete, I'll have to find someone to work there. I also find a small box on the side, and that tells me eventually I'll have to maintain to keep the quality of the stores. I head back over toward the workshop where I find Anchor messing with some device, and he explains to me it's a machine that'll fill up air tanks so I can dive deeper and longer, that's what she said, into the water. And then he handed me some scuba goggles for when I repair it. I apparently need a power box, which Anchor told me can be found in the abandoned underwater garage area here on the map. So I took my boat over, dived down, and found a couple of goodies, including the power box I need. After exploring the area a bit more and for some more forageables, I head back to the island and finished up repairing the air tank refill station. I even put some rusty tanks into it to fill with air. After sorting through some inventory and prepping some materials for crafting, I headed back over to Anchor and he congratulated me on fixing the station, of course. He asked me if I could make use of my air tanks and find some cargo he lost. He marked my map with the location, and I took the time to check my map and actually check out some of the other potential islands I can go to. There was a lot of neat things on the map to see, but we'll have to get back to that later. I went back to the workshop and finished crafting my furniture workstation and put it upstairs in the workshop. This is where I can craft a lot of the items I've been breaking down around town, like crates, tables, benches, trunks, that kind of stuff. Definitely something to keep in mind. Anyway, I got on my boat, headed out to find Anchor's cargo. I made it all the way to the marked spot on the map, equipped my scuba gear, and dived below the waves. I broke through some boxes, obtained Anchor's cargo, and continued to forage for more materials for a while. And I noticed on my map there was another island called Hot Tropic to the south of me, so I decided to make a pit stop there before heading back home. Upon beaching, I immediately found an old loom which I need for the clothing shop, and a bunch of other forageables and materials. I wandered up to the island a bit, found a fish fossil, which says it must be for a museum or something, found a giant ball of yarn at the top of the mountain. Geez, there must be a huge cat around to have a ball of yarn that big. I scavenged the beach a bit more for more stuff, and then came across this. I think I found the cat. There was a critter sitting in front of it named Glop, who seemed to have been having an argument with the cat statue? Anyway, he asks for some blueberries, which I just so happened to have picked up a little while ago, so I handed them to him and he seemed to be better. Asked for a suggestion of a place to move to, so I of course offered CritterCove as a potential, and he reluctantly agreed. Back to the beach, I got on the boat and took Glop back to CritterCove. Of course, being the new resident here, he needs a tent to stay, but he's being rude, so he can wait. Instead, I go and gather materials and donate all the supplies needed to the clothing store. I found Anchor and he was happy to see his cargo. He rewarded me with a blueprint for a retro rocket. Thanks, I guess? Now I gave Glop his stupid tent, and he gave me a fun time lamp. I headed home, redecorated a little bit, and then went to bed for the night. Today I ran over to talk to Copperbottom, who showed me the finished clothing shop, and of course told me I needed to employ someone to work there as well. I noticed Sammy staring at a house, and when I talked to him, he asked me if he should move out of his tent and into that particular spot, to which I said yes, of course I'd love to have Sammy as a neighbor. Sammy used some kind of witchcraft after that and disappeared into thin air, which took me by surprise, and lo and behold, suddenly Inspector Checkmark waving me down in the center of town. How did he do that? Anyway, he was excited to tell me that I had accomplished all of my goals so far to get the CritterCove to rank 1, and then proceeded to tell me that I have officially completed the playtest. Apparently, there might be a few more little things I haven't done or found yet, so thankfully he didn't end my game, and he walked off. I ran down to the beach and found Eddie jogging, so I chased him down and asked him to take over the clothing shop, to which he seemed excited, and agreed to work there. Then I ran into Sammy again, hopefully done with his witchcraft long enough that I can tell him to work at the cafe. Sammy really seemed to like this idea, and he wandered off. I saw Glop roaming the streets, and when I talked to him, he insulted me by telling me that I need to take a bath. You're next on the list, Glop. Anyway, after that, I went to gather and donate supplies needed to help Sammy complete his house. He was very happy for my help and began working on his abode, and... Whoa. I'll never get used to that. I got on my boat and expertly dodged and weaved the lightning as I decided I was going to go explore the islands off to the north and... Oh, okay then. Well, how about these islands off to the east then? The islands to the south? No? I see then. Okay, fine then. I'll just explore this floating wreckage for some good... What? Huh? Fine! I head back to CritterCove and check up on Eddie in the clothing store, which was actually kind of fun. I realized how good of a decision I made putting Sammy to work in their cafe. I mean, look at this. Best work outfit ever. I decided to use the rest of the daylight I had left to recheck the islands to the west, and I'm glad I did because I found the most evil, nastiest villain of them all, Frankenwaddle. Yes, he will be my accomplice when dealing with the folks on my list. With Frankenwaddle in tow, I headed back home, redecorated a bit, and went to bed. This morning, I made some street lamps, placed them around town center to light up the place a bit more at night, and then stopped into the clothing shop where I found the best item, the best piece of clothing I could ever hope for. A pirate tricorn. Yes, I will now plunder and sail all these seas. Or at least the ones I'm not blocked from by the demo. I went and explored some of the underwater locations I'd been to before, but had trouble with air. So, I mean, nothing new really, just a lot of materials and such. I helped Pokey build her house in town, and then also helped Eddie build his. I didn't really do much else today except faff around town a little bit, so decided to call it an early night and went to bed. I caught Pokey finishing up her house this morning and then immediately went to catch Eddie finishing up his. They gave me a Pharaoh's chair and a Pharaoh's vase as gifts, and I went ahead and put them both in my house. And then I ran into Glop, who seems to have turned over a new leaf, actually being polite, and Glop is now the only target on my list. Anyway, after that, I found Sammy, still in work uniform, wandering about town, and then I literally swam with the fishes for a little bit. Yeah, I'm not sure what I was doing here, honestly. So pretty much the last couple of days were mostly just wandering around, making sure I didn't have anything else to do. I did eat some yellow berries, which made me high as a kite, and apparently allowed me to speak with Meowise, the same giant cat that Glop was talking to when I found him. He sent me on a short quest to dig up some treasure, which ended up being a giant toy rat. I looked over my town and pondered what great adventures and friends await me in the full version. I really love this game, and I'm absolutely stoked to see what's in store for us in the coming days. Thank you to Gentleman Rat for allowing me to have an early playtest, and thank you all for watching my adventure. I hope you had a great time, enjoyed the content, and all have a fantastic day. As for me, well, I have a list to get to. There we go.